So what shift happens? Well, it's two things really. First, it's the name of a book entitled Shift Happens, Making the Shift to Proactive Behavior Management. It's a book that the Delarc staff and I wrote a few years ago, and one that has been so very well received throughout the country. The other thing Shift Happens is the name of the training associated with the book. But what in the world is Shift Happens? It's our name for a proactive philosophy and a positive approach. We hear a lot about positive approaches in this field, but very few organizations have really worked to make it happen. In fact, often when I'm talking to people, the second question I always hear is, fine, but how do you make our staff do it? It's not about the concepts or the philosophy or the beliefs in a positive approach. I think that's an easy sell. I think most people really believe that there is a better way and that a proactive philosophy and a positive approach is that better way. But the question that consistently comes up is, how do we get people to do it? How do I get my staff to perform in that way? And that's what our people power leadership model is all about. Because you see, we believe that there's so much power in people and in teams that never gets unleashed. In fact, most organizations kind of strangle that creativity and that power, and they haven't found ways to let it go. We've been working at this a long time, and we believe we found one way that's effective, and I'll tell you what, there's lots of people who are catching on and want to hear about it. So that's what the books are about, that's what the training is about, that's what this webpage is about. So what's it mean to be proactive and positive? Well, first off, what it means is we're going to spend our time trying to prevent problems more than we're going to spend our time dealing with trying to react to them. You know, once a behavior occurs, it's over, it's gone, it's done with. Yet what we have found is we used to spend so much time trying to find the perfect punishment or the perfect consequence, and we never could find it, and they never worked, or they worked in a very limited way for a very short period of time. You know, it never was satisfying, and it never really helped the person really change. Yeah, we could kind of control people in certain situations if certain other people were present, but you know, they never really learned that and believed that they had to act differently. They had to act in a different way. So now what we've learned over time is that we're better off putting the creative power of our staff to work in trying to figure out how to prevent the behavior from ever occurring. So that it's not about what we do when somebody does something inappropriate. Rather, it's what are we doing? How do we use the total resources of our organization to help the individual want to do the right thing right from the go? That produces internal change. That makes people want to do the right thing and not do it because someone else is looking over their shoulder or because they're afraid of punishment. That's real internal growth, and that's what we're looking for, and that's what our Shift Happens approach is all about. That's what being proactive is. Positivity, on the other hand, is what helps us get there. You know, everybody loves a pat in the back. Everybody complains that, you know, you tell me when I'm doing something wrong, but you never tell me when I'm doing something good. Well, positivity says we're going to overlook the negative, and we are going to focus on the positive. And we lavish on the praise and reinforcement continually from the first moment we meet the person. That's why the atmosphere in our buildings is so positive. That's why you see such smiling faces on all of the staff that you meet, day in, day out, regardless of the issues, regardless of the stresses, regardless of the problems. We've come to understand that being positive is the only way to really get things done. Yeah, you can get through the day with a sour puss, but you're not going to help other people unless we're positive. That's how we make the biggest change and have the biggest impact on people's lives. That's how we do right by the people we serve. That's how we do right by the taxpayer as well, making the best use of the limited resources that we have and producing results that last. And so people say, well, what are the results? Well, the results are awesome. There's two ways to look at results. You can look at results in terms of reducing the negative, and frankly, that's why most people read our book or come looking for us. How do I stop this temper tantrum? How do I improve staff morale? How do I end the complaints that I receive? You know, and that's fine. Our approach works in that regard. We have fewer incidents, fewer accidents. We have lower workers' comp claims. There are so many negatives that we can eliminate or reduce. Temper tantrums, allegations of abuse, virtually unheard of in this organization. It even goes as far as car accidents. One time I had an insurance company call me and say, what are you guys doing right? I said, what do you mean? And they said, we've examined your claims against other organizations that are similar size and similar condition, and your claims are so much lower than everybody else's. What are you guys doing right? How many folks get phone calls like that? So we can talk about reducing negatives, and we do. We'd rather talk about increasing the positives. What do we mean by that? Well, what we mean, quite simply, are things like the rate at which people grow, how they change, and how much more independent they are. Are they able to develop true and lasting friendships? Those are the kind of things that we look for to increase. Along the way, we look at other things like their ability to communicate, their ability to want to communicate, okay? Their ability to want to work hard to overcome their disabilities rather than to just withdraw into those disabilities. That's what positivity gets you. And how do we do it? We do it by starting with the right people, number one, first and foremost. You know, we had a staff member who had one of the most unique hobbies I've ever heard of. She and her husband, their hobby was to grow giant pumpkins. I'm talking about giant pumpkins, 12, 1,500-pound pumpkins that were just gigantic. And when you asked her what the secret to growing great pumpkins is, she said there are two. First one is you got to start with giant seeds. Regular pumpkin seeds, about that big. Giant pumpkin seeds, about that big, okay? Well, it's the same with us. We've got to start with those great seeds. We've got to find the best. If we want the best, we've got to find them. They're not going to come here because they stumble on us. We've got to look for them and find us. And people say to us all the time, but we can't find them. And my response is, you're never going to find them if you don't look. The other secret to growing giant pumpkins is nourishment. Well, we know that, fertilizer. Yeah, but did you know that what they use is 5 gallons of Miracle-Gro every day? 5 gallons. It's not like a pint, a cup, or even a gallon. It's 5 gallons every day. And what that tells us is that once you get those great seeds, once you're able to attract those great staff, you got to nourish them. You got to provide them the training and the support that they need to become the best that they can become, to do the best they can for the people that we serve. That's what it's all about. That's what our people power leadership model is about. So Shift Happens describes the what of what we do. That is the proactive philosophy and the positive approach. People power talks about how do you make it happen? How do you make it happen? Those two hand in hand is what's so critical. That's what Shift Happens and People Power are all about.